So this presentation is on Agile risk management. So the objectives of the presentation, I'm going to talk about project risk management first, just to set the foundation for that. And then what is Agile? So depending on your background, knowledge, and experience in this call, you may know something about risk management, you may know something about Agile. I'm going to kind of do an overview of both. And then I'm going to talk about Agile risk management. So what do those look like together? I'm going to provide some recommendations for implementing Agile risk management. And then I'm going to open up the thought of risk as an opportunity. So that's sort of jumping generally in the background. I know we think of risk as a bad word, and I like to think of it as an opportunity. First of all, risk is just uncertainty, so it can be either positive or negative, so it can actually be threats or opportunities. Okay, so with that, I'm going to get started, so providing some foundations. So Agile projects, there's an increased need for Agile project management. We've seen that with PMI's ACP certification, Agile Certified Practitioner. It is the fastest growing PMI certification. Some thoughts we have around this. So how do project managers use methodologies like risk management? How do they fit into Agile practices? So that's one of the things we're going to talk about here. As project managers, we've certainly heard a lot about risk management and Agile, but how do those methodologies relate? We use them to manage resources and do more with less on our projects, which I think we all have that challenge. Risk management and how does it work in general? So those are things we're going to cover. This presentation, I'm using the analogy of flight to discuss Agile risk management. As I said, it's the art of Agile risk management, so we can think of flight as being an art and definitely nuanced. So I'm going to provide some foundations about flight. So the first powered flight was on December 17th in 1903 in our southern neighbors in the Outer Banks at Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina. That first flight was 12 seconds. It was at 120 feet, and the pilot was Orville Wright. Hang gliding, which I actually do hang gliding recreationally. I don't yet have my certification, but I'm going for that. I do have my Agile certification, so that's good. Hang gliding began in the 1880s. It's non-powered flight, which is used as a foot-launchable aircraft. An alloy and composite frame with a fabric wing. The pilot hangs from the harness supported from the airframe. Pilot just getting their body weight. Francis Rogallo is well known for the flexible wing that is used by most hang gliders today. Okay, so this first item should be actually a picture of me standing at the top of a hill with a hang glider. There's actually a video for it. You can certainly find that online. We can't show the video at this point. But you'll see a flight of me flying at about maybe 20, 30 feet above the ground on the dunes. So you'll see how I pull this together in a second. So first I'm going to define risk. So risk is an uncertain event or condition. If it occurs, it can have a positive or negative effect on at least one objective of our project. So when we look at risk, we want to divide it into two pieces. Probability, which is the likelihood that that risk event will occur and that that objective will not be met, which affects our current project plan. And then the other portion of risk is the impact. So that would be the consequence of occurrence and any penalty that's incurred if the objective is not met or obtained. Aspect to keep in mind is that a risk is not an issue. A risk is an event that may or may not occur in the future, whereas a problem or an issue is something that has already occurred and you're dealing with now. A risk event occurs, and it is a threat risk event. It will generate an issue. It'll become an issue. If a risk event occurs and it's a positive risk, it will become a benefit. Risk management. An organized, systematic decision-making process that efficiently plans, assesses, handles, monitors, and documents risk for the purpose of increasing the likelihood of achieving project goals and decreasing the likelihood that a risk will become a future problem. When we talk about risk management, we want to look at project constraints. Project constraints include scope, cost, time, and you'll also often see quality with that. What the triple constraint says is that if one of the three aspects of this triad, scope, cost, and time, is changed, then one of the other ones must. So you can see here that there is a significant amount of uncertainty in our projects in relation to scope, cost, and time, and risk can be used to manage those. Risk management can be used to manage those. Management process, so this is sort of the traditional process, includes identification of risks, assessment of those risks, which could be both a qualitative and a quantitative assessment, planning to mitigate, avoid, or transfer or accept those risks for threat risks, or there are other actions we can take for opportunity risks, and then execution of those response strategies. Okay? And that we want to plan, monitor, document, and control those risks throughout the project management lifecycle. So when is it appropriate to identify a risk? So if something poses a threat to meeting success mission objectives, meeting time, cost, and scope objectives for the project, or critical milestones, if you need resources to resolve the risk, if a witness is needed, if the risk presents threat to completing tasks, and in general, I just say if you're not sure, you should identify the risk. Okay, identification, we want to break down that risk into a probability and an impact. So what I recommend is using an if-then statement. So for example, if I have a flat tire while commuting to work, then I might not get to work on time. So is risk assessment. So we look at that risk and we want to assess it from a probability and impact perspective. And you can see in the bottom right, there's a probability and impact matrix. This is a way we can do qualitative risk assessment. And we can use this to plot that risk and determine if the risk itself is high, medium, or low. Oftentimes, people look at a risk and think of it as being high because the probability is high, but the impact is not. Or the impact is very high and the probability is low. So those risks are not necessarily high just because one aspect is. It's a combination of probability and impact that create a risk exposure or risk score that's high. We want to do this because we want to make sure that the risks we're dealing with are the most important ones. We're doing this so we can prioritize those risks. We don't have unlimited resources and unlimited time to reduce all threat risks, so we want to focus on the ones that are most important. The ones that if they became issues would be the most critical in negatively affecting our project objectives. Now, I talked about positive risk before, opportunity risk. Most of my focus in this presentation is going to be on threat risk and managing those for our project. Next step is response planning. So here we look at some threat risk response strategies. We can mitigate risks. By doing that, we're reducing either the probability or the impact, or mitigation could reduce both of those. There's also avoidance. We can eliminate the risk by doing something entirely different. So for example, mitigating the risk of getting a flat tire while driving to work, I could use mass transit.